Hi, welcome to the How Do I video series on Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015. My name is Mark Brummel and I'm an MVP for Microsoft Dynamics NAV and an evangelist for the NAV Design Patterns project. I will be presenting how do I implement documents in Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015. This video is made in collaboration with Plataan, a Microsoft Dynamics Learning Center from Belgium, and Microsoft. At the end of this video you will have an idea on how to implement documents in Microsoft Dynamics NAV. The objective of this video is to first look at the architecture of NAV and see where documents fit in. Then we will look at the design pattern from the standard application, and lastly how to implement your own documents. But first let me explain what design patterns are. Design patterns are common solutions or best practices to solve problems. This is a well-known concept in computer programming and can therefore be applied to Dynamics NAV as well. This video is part of a series around design patterns in Microsoft Dynamics NAV, and during this video I will reference to other patterns and videos. In this video we will be going through 3 easy steps. In step 1, meet the pattern, we will look at how documents fit into the Dynamics NAV architecture. We will also look at the different options to move data around in the database. In step 2, know the pattern, we will look at how the pattern is implemented in the application. And in step 3, use the pattern, we will use the pattern in our own example application. I would like to recommend some reference videos. We will first briefly recap some information that we have discussed in How Do I Read and Understand the Posting Routines. Another video I would like to recommend is How Do I Work with Master Data and Posting, and How Do I Implement the Copy Document pattern. Before we dive into the programming, let's have a look at how the design pattern works in the application. Microsoft Dynamics NAV has a layered approach, and the documents in this video are the 4th layer of this structure. We use the document pattern if the physical representation of the data can be printed on paper and moved around in a workflow. There are a wide variety of these documents in NAV, such as purchase orders, sales shipments and warehouse picks. Because of the fact that they move around in a company, they have a temporary character in the application. They cause things to happen in a company. For example, a sales shipment causes items to leave the warehouse. Hence, doing things with documents cause data to move around in the system. There are 3 ways of creating data movements in NAV. 2 of them are caused by documents moving in the database. When starting a process, the document is not changed, but we start something such as creating a warehouse pick or starting the document approval. When posting a document, we create a history version that may be different from the original, and we create other data changed in the database, for example, posting a sales shipment from a sales order. Archiving means a one-to-one historical copy of the document without changing it. For example, archiving a sales quote or archiving timesheets. When either of these workflows create entries, we need to be able to relate back to them from the documents into the details. This is done using the API called Navigate. One of the entry points of Navigate is documents. Let's have a look at how this works from a technical perspective. Documents typically have a structure of header and lines. This is very recognizable from the paper documents, where you have address information and things like dates and bank information on the header and multiple lines with items or other master data. The most well-known structure in Dynamics NAV are the sales and purchase documents. They have a wide variety of transactions such as posting, releasing, approval and archiving, moving all the data around in the system and creating entries. But there are 57 document structures in Dynamics NAV. some very simple and some more complex. To show the basic technical elements, we will look at transfer orders. They are relatively simple. To be a valid document, we need two tables, a header table and a line table. They typically have the same primary key fields. The document has a number field that is most often determined using the number series pattern, and the lines have a document number field that references back. They also have a line number field that creates the unique line number. There are at least 3 pages, a list, the card, and a subpage. This structure can get more complex if document types are normalized into one table, which is very common in Dynamics NAV. The number field in the lines have a built-in mechanism to determine the values in Dynamics NAV. This is called auto-split key, and it is set at the page level. When this property is enabled, the last field in the primary key should always be an integer, and it's automatically updated with 10,000 or split in half. We will deep dive into this when we create our own document. As with many documents in Microsoft Dynamics NAV, the transfer orders are posted to different other documents. In this case, a transfer shipment and a transfer receipt. For each of the posted documents, we have a separate table. This is never normalized. When documents post journals during the posting process, the posted document pages will always have a link to the Navigate API. Let's see how we can implement the pattern in our own application. In the video How do I implement master data, we already prepared a document structure. We have a document, example document, and we have 2 tables for posted example documents. In our case, we have called it an example song or an example dance. However, the current structure doesn't have lines, so it's not really the document structure that we discussed in this video. Let's see how we can add the lines to our documents. The first step is to add a lines table. So we start with a new table and add the fields document number and line number. We will create a primary key that has these 2 fields, and the document number will have a table relation with the example document table. We can just enter the table number, and when we save the table, it will be converted to the table. It saves us a lot of time looking up the table name. So we save the table 50,004 example document line. We will also go into our example document and we will change the name to example document header so people recognize this as a header and line structure. And we populate the caption too. So now we have a technical structure to store document lines, but we want the end user to be able to populate something too. In our example, we'll just be keeping it simple, and we will just add a description and a date field. Let's leave some room for other fields, so we start with field number 10 for description. We make it text 50, and we add another field that we call example date. So now we have 2 fields that the user can fill in when creating the new documents. In order for the end users to be able to do something, we need to have the page. So we create a new page, we populate our table number, we create a list part, which is the standard part we need for sub pages, and in the wizard we will just select description and example date, because the document number and the line number will be automatically populated by NAV, and the user doesn't need to know about these fields even existing in the database. So now we have a simple page. We give it a number. So now we can go and add this page to our example document. We will be adding a part, and the part that we are adding is 50,005, and we need to create a link with the document number. Please note that we have not yet used the auto split key property, so let's just see how this works right now from the application. We will go to one of the existing documents that is already in the database, and we can see that we have the example document subpage, and we will just add a description and a date. But as soon as we start creating more lines, we get the error that the example document line already exists, and the error we are getting is on line number 0. This is because the auto split key has not been activated yet. So let's go back to the object designer and go to the document subpage, and we will add the auto split key, and we'll go back to our example document and create a new line. And now we can see that we can actually create a second line. But let's add the line number to see what's happening with the auto split key behind the scenes. So we add the line number to the page. We open the page again. So now we can see that we actually have line number 0 and line number 10,000. And we can see that if we add a third line, that we actually create a new line, and the line number increments by 10,000. If we create a new line in the middle, we can see that it actually splits. And if we add more, we can see that it just continue to split. So now we have added so many lines that we have line number 10,000 and 10,001, and now we get the message that the line cannot be split because there's no value, integer value, between 10,000 and 10,001. So there is a limitation of using this pattern with the lines you can insert in between, but in real life this is not typically a problem doing implementations with the product. So now we have successfully implemented lines in our example documents. We also want the lines to be moved forward when we post our example documents. So in order to do that, we need to create the lines tables for our example songs and example dances as well. So let's go back to our tables, and we can actually design the example document line, and we can basically save that as an example song line, and we just have to update the table relation to example song, and we now have an example song line. And we can do this again, and we make it an example dance line. we update the table relation, and here we go, we have an example dance line. So now we also have to create the subpages. So we do that by creating a new page, list part, and we just add the description and the name, and we just save the table example song sub page. Please note that we don't have to use the auto split key here because we're not going to create data. This is just an archive, so we don't need that property. But we do need to add it to the page. So we add the page. We actually need to give it a caption called lines. And we add the page part ID, which was example song subpage. We add the subpage link, which is the number field. And that's basically all we have to do. And we have to do the same with the dance. So we create a new subpart, example dance line. We add the page part ID and the page link. We give it the name lines, the caption lines, and here we go. So now if we go to departments, example, and we go for example to the song archive, we can see that we have the lines here. The last piece that we have to add is moving the data from the unposted document to the posted document. If we look at the code unit structure, we learned in the video how do I read and understand posting routines. We know that the code unit has the test near, test far, do it, and cleanup. And the part where we have to move the data is actually the do it, where we use the transfer fields in order to move the data. So we go to our code unit, example post, that has the test near and test far. And we here have two parts where we have the post example song and the post example dance. Let's go to the post example song where we have the example song that transfers to the from the example document. And let's add some code here that moves the lines. We create a function called post example song lines. And we write this code snippet that moves the data from the example document line to the example song line. And we do exactly the same with the example dance lines. And in the onRun trigger, we add a reference to our new functions with the record as a parameter. And we have our posting code unit completed. Let's test this functionality in the role-tailored client. Here we have the document with all the lines. We select post. We post both a song and a dance. We go to the example songs. And we can see that we have all the lines in the songs. And we can also see that we have the same in the dances. The last thing that we need to do is to add the Navigate API to this. In order to do this, we need to go to page number 344, Navigate, which contains all the business logic to search for entries. In the function find records, we need to add a reference to our own tables. We will add 3 global variables for the system to find example ledger entries, example songs, and example dances. And then we add this code where if we have permission to read the songs, we show the songs based on the filter. If we have permission to read the dances, we add the dances to the filter. And if we have permission to read the entries, we add the entries to the filter. In the function show records, we also have to add some code. This function is used to display a page with the corresponding record. Here we add this code snippet, where we show the page with the example ledger entries or the page with the example song or the example dance. So now we have changed the navigate API. Now we also need to make sure that we can navigate from the example song and dance. In order to do this, we go to the example song table and we go to the functions and we add a function called navigate. This function calls the navigate page, sets the document number and the posting date and runs the page. And we do the same with the example dance table. We go to the functions and we add the code. The next step is to go to the list and the card pages and add the navigate page. This is basically an action which is always the same. It has the caption navigate, it has the image navigate, it resides in the promoted category process, and it contains a link to the navigate function. So we add that to each of the pages. And now we have navigate on all the posted example documents. Let's go to NAV and see how that works. We have our example that we just posted. We now have the navigate button. And if we now hit navigate, we can see that with this document number we have a posted song, a posted dance and one example ledger entry, and we can use the show related entries to go to the dance. And if we navigate from there, we just go and we can go through the system showing all the related information. In this video we have learned how to use the documents pattern. We looked at how it's used from a functional perspective and how it's implemented in a standard application. Lastly, we created our own document pattern in our own example application. Thank you for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you again in another episode of the How Do I video series for design patterns in Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015.